Hello, hello, and welcome again to Double Espresso Show powered by Pearl Coffee. Today we're joined by a very special guest, Paul Selman. Now, Paul is a multiple times business owner, a successful business owner who has now started teaching people how to do business correctly, how to succeed, how to increase your profits, and he, as a result, has become business coach. He does teach at the Gherkins, famous location Gherkins in London. He speaks at multiple business events, and also on a weekly basis he's a head coach and a trainer at the Peterborough Academy, which is run by Joseph Walence in Peterborough, called the Trade Mastermind. So here we go. Warm welcome, Paul. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be here. I love the coffee already, so it's good to know that I'm well catered for.
That's good. That's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us, for those who don't know you, what's your background, how you started, how it all began?
Yeah, sure. So, I started actually as an engineer. I was on the tools. I did this as part of the Royal Navy training first, so I'm ex-military. Had various jobs before that, but I just ended up going into a career in the military. Once I left that, I decided to keep on the tools, and it was at that point I decided to start my own business, which was a business in the gas engineering sector. Now, like most people, I got into business without any thought about how to actually run a business. I just thought if we just get started, things will eventually get better. As long as I keep working harder and harder and harder, things will get better and better and better. What actually happened is they ended up getting worse and worse and worse. And it was only when I started getting some coaching myself that I actually started to develop as a business owner. Once I'd learnt some lessons and I started to improve that first business, which was in the trade and the construction environment, I then went on to implement the lessons that I'd learnt in that environment into other environments. And then I've developed a property business since then, a consultancy company. I'm active in the stock market. I teach and trade, teach other people how to trade the stock market as well. So that's how I've developed businesses. So I'm always about improving on the learning that I've had. And then trying to get as many passive types of income as I possibly can. I got told very early on in my career that, or very early on in this personal development space, that most millionaires have at least 7 streams of income. Mm-hmm. And this is why I'm constantly trying to build them up. So eventually I've got as many passive incomes as I can.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. And when you started your business, what are the biggest challenges that you faced?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the main ones is not knowing what to do. Mm-hmm. There's 4 key pillars I've found in business: marketing, sales, operations, and finance. Mm-hmm. The problem with most business owners is they just end up in business and they learn operations and operations only without concentrating or even knowing that they need to know anything about marketing, sales, and finance. So it's no wonder progress is kind of weighted against them. So you do need to concentrate on learning some of the stuff that you don't know. So some of the main challenge that I had is I knew what work I wanted to do and what type of clients I wanted to do it for. But I didn't know how to do any marketing skills, so I didn't know how to reach out to these people and then get enough of a steady flow of these types of jobs in order to sustain a business, especially without me working in it. So I knew how to get busy. Sometimes a busy fool, a lot of business owners I still find, and it's said with love because I was exactly the same. I just thought the more services that I can offer out to everybody, the more things I can say yes to, the better the business will get, or the more money I'll make. All that really happened is that I just became busier and less profitable because there was no focus or direction in the business that was going to eventually lead to that profit. So that's a challenge. Trusting people with your name, especially with your first business, you tend to find that it's your baby and you don't want to take the risk of other people ruining your name. So recruitment was non-existent for me. I hadn't recruited a single engineer because I didn't dare. And the problem with that, though, is you can never scale. There's only so much money that one set of hands is ever going to earn you. And without actually taking that leap of faith and learning how to recruit good people, and then more importantly, keep good people, is another massive failure that I see lots of business owners failing at, and obviously what I failed at initially myself. So without knowing how to market and how to recruit properly, these are going to be key to growing any business. People don't even realise sometimes what industry they're in. I used to think I was in the plumbing and heating industry. I get people that think they're in the building game, and you have to explain to them you're not. You don't even realise what industry you're in. You're in the sales and marketing industry. Just the product that you sell is just different, and that's the operations bit. Yeah. Once you realise that your industry is based around marketing and sales, and to be fair, public speaking. People don't even
Yeah.
realise that they're in the public speaking game, and they don't realise that, but they are, because most of the clients they go to see they've never met before, and they need to use their public speaking skills to improve those relations and create a good first impression.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting you say that, because I've heard you speaking at Gherkin, and one of the things you said to the small businesses who were there, some of them were turning over 100K plus, some of them 500,000 plus, some of them actually gone over the million. But the problem is that sometimes they're one-man band or maybe two-man operation, and you trying to install to them the motto that actually get off the tools.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell us more about getting off the tools, how important it is, and what is the first step someone can do to get off the tools? Whatever industry you're in, maybe you are in a cafe, well, obviously it's my industry, cafe, restaurants, etc. And you find a lot of the times that people could improve their business if they didn't spend so much time in the kitchen. Because it's not, they can find someone else who can do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
They can find someone else to make the coffee and teach them proper barista skills, and then leave them to do their job while he or she can focus, the owner can focus on actually financials, the spreadsheets. So what's the first step someone can do to actually get off the tools? What's your recommendations?
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you've already highlighted the importance of this. And the reason there is an importance needs to be placed on this is because all the while that you're working in the operational part of your business, you won't be able to work on your business because you're constantly working in it. And it sounds like a cliche, but all the while you're doing operations, you can't concentrate on marketing, you can't concentrate on sales, you can't concentrate on all the other development areas. So you actually, as everybody's business owner has, they have a choice to make, and it's either stay as a smaller business and a 1 or 2 man operation, or decide to move from the tools or whatever that discipline is and into business ownership. Because we don't just find this in trades. Obviously, this is where my experience lies, but I tend to find plumbers run plumbing firms, electricians run electrical firms. But if you go into any other industries, you find that lawyers start legal practices, accountants run accountancy firms. It always starts with something that people learn how to do. Some of them get so good at it, then they get asked by more people to do it. And before they know it, they've got a business, but they haven't learned any of the other stuff. So the way I'd get around this and work out how I can then stagger my release from the tools is by first and foremost getting a company structure together of what my business needs to look like for it to work without me. So who's involved? So most businesses would have a CEO at the top, an ops manager, a sales manager, some operators, some salespeople, and then maybe finance and admin. So distill that company structure first and then put some names in the boxes. If your name is in every box, we've then obviously discovered the problem. Now, what I'd then do is I'd then work out where I spend most of my time at the moment. So say in the coffee industry or in the cafe industry, if you're finding that you're spending 10 hours a day in the kitchen, you've got absolutely no idea what's happening in front of house because you can't control that. So if you think that could be an area that's suffering, first person you're going to get involved is a chef to replace you for 10 hours a day on the tools. Then you can then step back and look at what happens front of house, what happens in the kitchen. Eventually then, once you've moved into or moved away from that role, you can move mainly into sales and marketing and bringing more people through the door. Eventually systemize that. Once you get overworked in that area, then that's when we need to buy our time back by recruiting talent. And eventually you want to get to the position where you're not really managing director of the company. That's the last role that you fill. You get somebody in to manage the entire operation, and then you become a CEO. Now, in my opinion, the difference between a CEO and the owner is still quite a distinct one. So a CEO should be able to leave their business running and go away, and they still make the same money that they make when they're there, or not there, sorry. An owner is slightly different though. An owner should be able to leave their business for 3, 4, 6 months and it grow without them. And that's because they've got a dedicated senior management team that are dedicated to growing the business. So if you put it into a bigger format, it's like I own shares in Apple. So technically, I'm an owner of Apple. And I reckon if I left the country for 6 months, Apple have pretty much got it sorted. You know, they don't need my involvement. But that's how you should look upon your own business. You should be trying to build this organism from the ground up that can eventually work without you, generate cash, and then grow on its own.
Yeah. No, I have to quite agree with those because I met you probably 6 months to a year ago, and from hearing you speaking, I've implemented some changes to my business.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I can be off tools at any time. Sometimes I still choose to do or not time because sometimes someone can let you down and things can happen. Of
course.
But it's not something I have to do on a daily basis because the operations are there.
Yeah.
And it's like systems. You said to a lot of people, systems and operations. Same as Joseph said to people, you have to have systems and operations because if you don't do what you just told us, if you don't actually have enough confidence to actually start making small steps towards being actually an owner other than owning a job, because it's like Joseph says to us all the time. You can see his reels booming because he says, you see, if you don't do this, you just end up owning a job.
Yeah.
And is it better than when you used to work for someone else? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But the business, being actually the business owner, you can grow the business through a franchise. Maybe you can hire more people, get more jobs done, scale up your business,
That's true.
go nationwide. And having said that, do you think it's the confidence that stops people from making that actual step, saying, all right, tomorrow I'm not doing this. Tomorrow I'm actually investing money. Or what do you need to do actually?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's sometimes a lack of confidence there in the fact that they've never done it before and they haven't got any accountability or guidance. So that's what I pay my mentors for, is to give me the permission to make the move. Because business can be a lonely place sometimes, especially if you're the only person in business in your family like I was. I didn't come from a long line.
First generation, yes.
Exactly. So you can't, even though my dad was in banking, my mum was in legal services, so they're intelligent people, but it's a very different skill set when it comes to actually running a business from the ground up. So if you've got nobody to play those ideas off or give you permission to make that move, then sometimes you can get paralyzed by just not making a call, or you get paralyzed by analysis. And never get good at actually just making a decision. And making a decision quickly is one of the things that the best business owners can do. They will just make the decision, send the business on a particular trajectory quickly. If it's a wrong decision, they own it and they make a new one.
Yeah.
But they're always constantly moving forward. Some people just think if I stay doing exactly what I'm doing now and don't change anything, that's the safest place I can be. But what you tend to find is that when they stay still, they don't realise that the rest of the world moves around them and everything else keeps going. So keeping yourself moving and trying to, adapt ways of stopping yourself from procrastinating from making the decision is the important thing here. That you have to constantly be prepared to take that risk. Because in business, everything's a risk. However, if you want at these outweighed rewards from the business, which is what most business owners get into business for in the first place, then you have to accept that comes with a certain element of risk. We do tend to find some employees, they think, it's just safer being an employee. But they don't realise sometimes that most business owners are winging it, just at different levels. So they go, I kind of counteract that. I'll say, look, at least I can own the fact that we wing it in business sometimes, but I am at least the master of my own destination.
Yeah, it's true. From my own research and experience, from doing numerous test groups and speaking to many cafe business owners, they are afraid to make that step.
Yeah.
They might have enough money saved up to actually invest in their learning and development by going into a course or a seminar. No one says that you have to obviously always buy a course.
No.
But you can go at least to open up your horizons to see what other people are doing. And that's when I started. I went to a few events like this and I thought, wow, there is actually a benefit of having a mentor, because once you have a mentor, the biggest, like you just said, the biggest problem in business or having your own business or owning your own job is that no one tells you what to do. No one motivates you. No one pushes you. You say, why are you not making 100K sales? Why are you only making 10K sales? What's stopping you? Why don't you do 4 jobs and not 2 jobs a day? What's stopping you there? You see? And because you don't have a boss who constantly tells you what to do or push you, you kind of can take a relax.
That's it.
Okay, I have enough to pay the bills, and that's it. And that's not what the business should be like. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people might be happy with this, but a lot of other people that primarily we speak to actually want to improve, actually want to grow.
Of course they do, yeah.
Yeah. And what sort of courses would you advise people to look up? They say they got motivated by watching our video or interview. They think, okay, where should I click to find out more?
Well, look, I mean, there's a few different ways to look at this. So I'm quite an advocate now of the personal development space anyway, because you can go down a professional development route or a personal development route. Now, I think there's not much point in doing the professional development until you know who and understand who you are as an individual anyway. So I'm still quite an advocate of having different mentors for different things. So I've got 4 mentors at the moment.
Wow.
But they're all in different industries, because I think having niche experience and having that clear, defined path of somebody who's walked that route before you is more important, and it's more time saving than any other type of mentorship. So, but you've got to work on yourself mentally. First, I'm a big advocate of doing things like fitness, reading a lot. Well, I would say reading, I cheat, I use Audible. Lots of time traveling, so why not? And just making sure that all of the main bases are covered first. So I take care of my health. Before personal development, I used to smoke 30 a day. If I'd had a good day at work, I'd finish with a glass of wine. If it was a bad day, I'd finish with a bottle. I used to think I used to train religiously, but in reality, it was more like Christmas, Easter, and Ramadan. That's the only times I went down the gym. So it's just, you need to hone in on all those personal skills first, and then once you've actually got yourself into a better mental perspective, then go for niche experience in industries and just keep developing that way.
Yeah. And what would you say? Because it's also about surrounding ourselves. Because me and you, it seemed like we have a similar journey. We came from, not a lot of wealth, put it that way. And our parents were not the generational wealth. They haven't created for us any sort of pillars to step on and show us the way up. And I think this is homogenous to all other little business owners. They didn't have necessarily the best start and advice from the young age, secrets passed from father to son, etc., etc. So they have to figure out it somehow. And if they don't figure out, and if they don't try to go on the courses, read up about it, or actually start implementing the changes, I mean, don't you think that they are destined to be stuck at their level?
Well, they can do, but everything's a choice. Like I said, it's just some people are born into a more fortunate position than others. However, I've met a few wealthy people in my time now, and I've yet to meet a trust fund kid that's actually happy. I think that you actually get a lot of happiness from the journey itself and from the struggle. I did realise actually this about myself via a mentor once. I got my first property deal about 3 months into that journey, and I just signed the contracts on this. It was going to earn me about £2,500 a month for very little work, and I was thought I'd be happier. But when I was on the train journey back down from Middlesbrough to London after signing contracts, I realised that I wasn't happy. If anything, I was quite depressed. And I rang my mentor at the time. I said, look, I can't work out why I'm unhappy. And he says, look, you just discovered something about yourself that lots of entrepreneurs do come round to eventually, and it's that you get a lot of your gratification in this world and a lot of joy in the world from the struggle of trying to get the money. When the money's come too easy to you, and that deal was quite easy to put together, you feel like you've been robbed because they've taken the struggle away. And that's where you're getting your pleasure. You think you have to work hard for money. In reality, money's actually quite easy to come by, but you need to reframe your thought processes.
Yeah, get to that top.
That's it. So I still think, especially for my kids, it's still, yes, I will give them a helping hand. However, I'm expecting them to still find their own path, and Dad will always be there to help guide them. But whether or not they take that guidance is another matter.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've got two very independent children who want to do their own thing anyway, which is good. But as long as I can set a good example there for them, then that's the main thing. If you don't have that in your life, then you have to reach out and find someone. You become a sum of the people that you spend the most time with. Great believer in that. So if you want to upgrade your life, you end up first and foremost having to upgrade your circle. I mean, I had people as I've developed saying that you've changed. And I go, yeah, thank Christ. Yeah, this is what I was trying to do. It's cost me a fortune.
Yeah, and and the thing is you're right. You say it's what you just mentioned now is a circle. It's a lot of people, they grow up in a certain area and they have a certain amount of friends who may be in that industry that they have business in, or who may not be in that industry, who may not be so successful as they might look up to. So the number one advice is obviously tell me your, what is it called? Tell me your 5 friends and I can tell you your future.
Yes,
but you can't necessarily quickly change your friends or sign up to David's Law Gym and just send your friends. So what you can do is sign up to a training event, or broaden your horizons. Even with probably buying self-help books for a start, how to grow a business, and then eventually you're looking for a mentor. Once you're looking for a mentor and you're working with a mentor, hopefully then you will have a bigger circle of friends, of people, not call them friends, but people who actually think like you and who want to grow.
That becomes your new norm.
New norm, yeah.
That's it. And once you've done that, you just realise that every time you want to go to that next level, you just need to start just hanging around with people that are already at that level, and you naturally gravitate there anyway. So.
Yeah, it's very useful advice. And one more question. What's your top advice or top, say, even top 5 or top 3
Yeah.
advices for the businesses to succeed in the coming year?
Okay, cool. You need to, especially with the climate, we don't know how it's going to change with the autumn statement. I'm guessing taxes are going up. Okay, so knowing your figures is probably the foremost importance. I'd say that some business owners will bury their head in the sand and they'll just assume that if they're busy, they must be profitable. That's strictly not the case. You need to understand some key metrics in your business, what your turnover is, what your variable cost is, what your gross profit is and your gross profit margin, what your cost per acquisition is, the cost it takes to acquire one customer. Having tight control over your overheads to make sure that you're not earning loads of money on the top line and it's all wasted on the bottom line through expenses you don't need has to be controlled. And people tell me all the time they get into business to make money, but very few business owners that I see on a first meeting ever can even tell me how much operating profit they're making a month. So I say that that's something that you have to keep in check if you do want to make money. So there'll be that one. Obviously, marketing. You cannot grow a business without marketing. You can grow a good career and a good living without marketing, based out on word of mouth. But if you don't market effectively and learn how to do that, then you'll be lost. And always have a sales focus. You have to turn some of those leads into sales, or what is the point in the business? So yeah, keeping an eye on marketing, sales, and finance is going to be key. I'd say.
Oh, that's very good. Well, thank you very much, Paul, for your feedback and for answering all our questions. And
no problems.
Again, thank you very much for coming to our show. Is there anything else that you would like to add that maybe businesses can benefit from, and how do you see the future of UK business?
Okay.
So more like for the next 3, 4, 5 years, more long term. Because some people who are watching us might be just starting their business, might be in the process of setting up their business, and they're worried, is it the best time? How should I do it? What should I be aware of? And just generally, what's the outlook? Because a lot of people have negative outlook on the future. They think by 2030 we're going to have all the, all those restrictions, ULEZ everywhere. That's one way of looking at it. But the other way of looking at it, actually, what can we do to become so successful and join successful people so we're not affected by it, and maybe even we can change it, because if enough of us doing the right things and have enough power with a big enough business, big enough influence and a lot of followers, then maybe we can change things in the future for the better. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, and it's all done on, people always have a bit of a doom and gloom perspective on the world, but I always think where there's problems, there's also opportunities. So one of the major things that I had to change first as I decided to grow a very unsuccessful business into a successful one was the fact I used to have to tune out a lot of this negativity. So I used to be a very avid listener to LBC. And then I'd try and do all of my sales appointments in the evening after I'd listened to 12 hours of how bad the world is, how World War III's coming, how everybody can't afford everything and there's a cost of living crisis. And when I actually started tuning that out, my business got better. So I'd say, look, concentrate on your own journey. Governments come and go. Yes, there's going to be probably some shake-ups at the moment, but just be aware that you have to have a robust business that if you concentrate on will be robust enough to weather most storms, unless it's naturally going into an industry that might be on the decline anyway. Pay for good tax advice if you can afford it. They're then paid to keep an eye on your tax situations. Unfortunately,
Sorry to stop you a second. So tax advice is not the same as a basic chartered accountant, no?
It's not, no. Most people get most of their basic tax advice from their accountants initially. Eventually you need to upgrade that into independent tax advice. They keep your accountants in check. Eventually you need an IFA, so when you do get the money out of your businesses, you need to know where to invest it with an independent financial advisor. So there's different levels to that. But just make sure that you're aware that you are the master of your own destiny, really. Okay? And you need to keep pushing that journey. Don't be distracted by all the negativity in the world. There are always going to be problems. Okay, learning how to overcome them and still think of it in a positive mindset is going to be one of the most important things that you can do if you want to grow as a business owner. You get paid as a business owner when you can solve the problems. Okay.
Yeah, very wise. Well, again, thank you, Paul, for coming. Thank you for your detailed interview. And we hope that we will keep succeeding, that you will succeed as well. And
I hope the same
we turn the problems into opportunities.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cheers.